understand they're all out. I wonder very much what, if there are any such changes in the literature section of the other side of the room here. Here's the literature section. In the old one, I remember first noticing the poems of Oliver Goldsmith. Well, they don't seem to be here now, and unless they're out. A lot seems to be out, or was never there in the first place. And a lot is here that rather surprises me in the literature section. The Best of Dear Bill, really? Sprightly Derek Nimmo. But of course the world moves on, and this is too large a subject to discuss in this sort of program.
How did you get to the City of London School? Were you a scholarship boy?
Well, I used to say I was, and I was in a way, but my father went there and I had two uncles, and he wanted me to follow in his footsteps, and quite rightly in this case. And he actually paid out of his own pocket for a year's tuition fees there, because I did sit the scholarship and failed. But he inquired about it, and they said, well, you'd probably get one next year. So he gambled on that, which was a sacrifice to him, and very decent of him. Fortunately, when the time came, I did get one the next year. So I was a scholarship boy after a prelude, as it were. An awful lot of little boys who've got a bit of talent, little boys that are good at school, do a bit of scribbling, write a bit of poetry, don't they? I mean, it's part of normal growing up, and if you like poetry, if you like literature, then you see if you can produce some of it yourself, and it's only a tiny minority that go on after puberty. I wanted to be a writer, I suppose, before I knew what that really meant. But it seemed a jolly good thing to be. The school magazine was jolly useful to me because it acted as a dustbin for the frightful pseudo-symbolist, modernistic stuff, poetry chiefly, that I had in me at that time. I worked it off, some of it anyway, at the cost of the hapless readers of the school magazine, because I was a very bad and unpromising writer till I was 25.
You were the first member of your family, am I right in thinking, that went to university?
I don't think any of my family had been to university before, as far as I know.
And your father was very keen that you should go?
Yes, well, he had the feeling that lots of fathers had, and some fathers still have. You know, the boy is going to have a better start in life than I had. And he was, he sacrificed a certain amount to do that. Doing without the income that I'd have started to bring in after leaving school at 14, as it would have been, or 16 perhaps. And indeed paying me pocket money. Not enough, of course, but some. So, yes, I owe him a lot too.
And did you get on at that time? I mean, were you close?
Well, not really. I mean, I think fathers and sons do quarrel. I mean, he was a man of decided ideas, and I was a obstinate, idiotic, adolescent intellectual, wasn't I? So it wouldn't be expected that we should get on. And I also sensed that he was trying to not only to help me into university, which was jolly good, and I was all for that, but he was trying to make me after his own image, as it were, and be not so much a writer as something in the city. He was something very, very small, almost invisible in the City of London. And I think he vaguely, but quite passionately, wanted me to follow that part of his footsteps. And I very much didn't want to. I think a lot of it, most of it came out of that.
You've got nothing left of your parents, even though your father didn't die until 1959.
No, well, a series of misfortunes and accidents have seen to that. And he left everything, as they say, to a late girlfriend who unfortunately proved very grasping, who wouldn't release anything, even in keepsakes like watches or wallets that had no or very little intrinsic value. She took everything. So all I've got of his or of him is the last letter he wrote me a couple of weeks before he died. which isn't about any of that. Just thanks for, getting me into the nursing home. I'll see you soon. And that's all.
Right, and the next one.
What do they call you in the army?
Well, my first name is Kingsley. So a chap said very friendlily on the signal that they said, have you got a name, a first name? So I said, yes, Kingsley. He said, have you got another name? So I said, truthfully, William. All right, Bill. And we never looked back from there. The only place, but still, such people as I see, it's Bill, which is rather nice in a way.
Were you ever scared when you were in the army?
Yes, I was more scared of my own side than the Germans, and with reason too, because my own side tried to blow me up, not on purpose, but with a small anti-aircraft shell that didn't go off until it landed quite near enough to me. But, well, there's the occasion of the movable tin hat, which showed one's preoccupations. You used to lie above ground on your bed in your tent. You had your tin hat, and used to put mine on my head, lying there, and then think for a bit, and then put it down there, you see, covering where my legs join my trunk, and think a little longer, and then put it back up here, and think a bit more, and then find myself putting it down there again, and so on for some time. And once diffidently, to make conversation in a mess at breakfast the next morning, I said, this is what I do. And they said, what? I thought they were going to say I was mad. And they said, what? We all do. I do that. Do you? I do that. Do you? Thank God somebody's spoken out. At last. They all did it. And we took a vote on which site we favoured. And it ended up with a majority for keeping the tin hat on the head, which I think says a lot for British respect for the intellect.
Time to get aboard the train. It was already filling up with younger persons for the most part, undergraduates, junior dons, petty criminals. Jake found a lucky corner seat in one of a dozen identical uncompartmented carriages of the type he'd by now almost grown used to after years of vaguely imagining it had to be a stopgap measure adopted while something less desolate was under construction. He wondered, not for the first time, about the irremovable tables between each pair of seats. What unbriefed designer, Finnish or Paraguayan, had visualized English railway travellers beguiling their journey with portable games of skill or chance, academic study, even food and drink? Well, he would beguile the first part of this one with reading or letting his eyes run over a Times article on the Soviet armed threat to Western Europe. He kept at it until the train had slid out of the station and begun to pass the rows of dreadful houses that backed onto the line, and all his fellow passengers had settled down. The chances were quite high that this particular mobile other ranks bun shop held 2 or 3 people he knew well enough to talk to, and as high or higher that the moment he saw who they were, he wouldn't want that. When he lowered the paper, he found he was safe enough, with a young couple opposite in a loose half-embrace, eyes set on vacancy, mouths and jaws slack to a degree that suggested heavy sedation, and next to him, an old bitch with a profile like a chicken's, who obviously hadn't talked to anyone for years.
You only really like travelling by train, don't you, Kingsley? You don't like flying.
I haven't flown since 1932. From Croydon Aerodrome, 5 bob it was, and the chap gave us, it was all schoolboys, the chap gave us what he thought was a bit of a treat. And looking out of the window, I saw the ground like that. Oh, that's not where the ground's supposed to be. But anyway, I understand great strides have been made since. But I've not finished up there. I don't mind ships, but there aren't ships anymore. I love trains. And I like cars, but I don't drive. And I think that's, well, I haven't driven since the army, 45 years ago. which is a good thing.